We have him back by very popular demand. Julie Roginsky is Democratic strategist and president of Optimus Communications, and Mike DuHaime, Republican strategist and CEO of MAD Global Strategy Group. Now, Mike, is it MAD or MAD? MAD.
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 It's my initials. It could have been angry, it could have been pleasant or happy, but Mad happens to be my initials, so it works.
But Julie, even though you and Mike
do good strategy, right?
Yeah, exactly. But he's very rarely mad. Like he's got a very even demeanor. All right, look. People are seeing this on the back end of an interview we just did with Congressman Malinowski in the 7th Congressional District. He's the Democrat. His Republican opponent, Tom Kean Jr., opted not to participate. They didn't even tell us they weren't going to participate. They just never responded. Tom, let me ask you. Excuse me, not Tom. He's not with us. Mike, let me ask you. You're not here to defend Tom Kean Jr., but what the heck does it mean when a campaign opts not to participate in public discourse?
Well, I think it means he feels he's on a good track right now toward winning. Tom is obviously, as I think the viewers of your show know, it was a 1-point race last time. And after redistricting, there's about 30,000 more Republicans put in the district, a bunch of Democrats taken out of the district, and the political environment's a lot better. Donald Trump was on the top of the ticket last time. It's Joe Biden's midterm this time. I mean, all of that screams that Tom Kean should win this election. I just think it's a strategy that he seems to be employing right now, which is to talk kind of directly to the voters through his advertising and through his campaigning and not through the press. So far, the polling I've seen, it looks like he's doing well. So we'll see if the strategy bears fruit.
Appreciate it, Mike. Julie, we have this crazy idea here that democracy at a crossroads, which is an ongoing series, actually requires, regardless of where you are, respectfully, Mike, in the polls, that you actually participate in public dialogue. And we don't have a horse in the race. Both of you know that. We just ask straight up questions. The former senator chooses not to participate because he thinks he's going to win. Whether that's right or not, I don't know. What does that mean for the small d democratic system of governing and electing people?
Well, it means that Tom Kean doesn't want to answer questions about small d democratic governing, because I assume you'd ask him his views on former President Trump. I assume you'd ask him his views on January 6th. I assume you'd ask him his views on Lindsey Graham's new proposal to ban abortion federally. And I'm sure you would. And those are all questions Tom Kean doesn't want to answer, because those are all questions he knows won't help him in the 7th District this November. He obviously can't say, yes, I fully support Donald Trump, although he did say that previously because he needs independent voters in his district to vote for him. He obviously can say, yes, I am against a woman's right to choose, even though he voted that way when he voted in the legislature recently. So the best thing that Tom Kean can do, and it's not a bad strategy for him. Look, I tip my hat to him.
And Democrats have used it before as well, but go ahead.
Of course, yeah. I mean, listen, I tip my hat to him as a strategist. I would say to him, of course, I mean, the best thing for him to do is to avoid hard questions from you guys and hope nobody brings this up on the campaign trail. But what does it say for small d democracy? Not too much, not anything good, unfortunately.
We'll say Tom's been in public office for 20 years. It's not like he doesn't have a record. It's not like reporters have never got a chance to ask him questions before. He was a minority leader of the Republican State Senate caucus. So there are a lot of voters, and he ran last time. So it's not like voters don't know.
Mike, I'm sorry for interrupting. Here's the only problem with that, Mike. He has said publicly in his record that he's pro-choice. But when there was a vote, his last vote in the state Senate in New Jersey when he was there was to codify Roe v. Wade in terms of making a woman's right to a legal abortion this state law. He voted against it. That was not in his public record. And unless you're saying, look at that record, because I think you're implying that his record before that, it's not about that issue. It's about consistency. He has been a moderate, and this is not about the 7th Congressional District. It's about a larger issue. Tom Kean Jr. has been a moderate, a respected moderate in the legislature. His dad, Tom Kean Sr., no governor more respected than him. But there are questions, Julie, about where are you now? What do you stand for now? And the connection to the Make America Great crowd and to former President Trump, I'm sure he doesn't want to talk about. But is that part of his record, Julie, or is part of recent rhetoric?
Well, is it part of his record? I mean, I don't think he's ever voted for Trump, but he has certainly supported Trump. I mean, maybe he did vote for Trump in the last election. That's a great question. I have no idea whom he supported in 2020 or in 2016. That's a wonderful question to ask him. But the reality is he will be in Congress if he is successful this November, and he will be voting on issues that presumably, if he's successful and other Republicans are successful, Speaker Kevin McCarthy, if Republicans take control, will be putting forward. Among those will probably be a ban on reproductive freedom. Some of those will be voting rights issues that will help former President Trump not just cover up his record from 4 years ago for the last 4 years, but also presumably help him and others like him subvert our democracy further. Those are all legitimate questions that I think the next congressman from any district needs to answer, and certainly one who wants to displace an existing congressman who's got a great record on some of these issues that I think voters in the 7th district would probably agree with.
And Mike, also Tom Kaine's view, Malinowski's view, Malinowski shared his view on those who protested and invaded, if you will, the insurrection of January. You spoke, Mike, you've been more than clear and consistent about civil discourse, about how horrific the events of January were. You do that. Chris Christie does that, who you worked for very closely. Is it wrong to expect us that Tom Kaine Jr. just has a dialogue about January, so important to our democracy? Fair to say, Mike?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this is something that I've tried to be clear on in terms of the big lie and Trump, lying to assuage his ego and save his own, I don't know, save the perception that he has of himself, I guess. And so I think it is incumbent on Republicans to be clear and kind of speak truth to power over these.
You've been doing that for a long time, Mike.
Yeah, and I think as a behind the scenes operatives, you need to do that, behind the scenes as well as now publicly, as well as you take a role in public life. I don't think there's any reason to try to be elected or try to have influence in public life if you won't stand up for what you believe at times. But I think, what Tom is looking at here is, frankly, not everyone in the press is fair. Not everyone in the press, gives, even-handed questions and lets you answer. There's a lot of gotcha out there. And I think Tom looks at this, as do other elected officials, to basically say, if I don't win, I can't do anything. So right now, I have to win if I want to actually impact change and impact America. So this is a strategy to win. And then when I win, I can have the positive impact that I hope to have. And that's what I think the strategy he's doing. Ultimately, you need to win if you want to govern.
Yeah. P.S. If you want to check out Julie and Mike, check them out in the Star Ledger and on NJ.com. Friendly Fire, I believe, is the name of your column, and it's compelling, interesting, and I learn from it every time I read it. Julie, let me ask you, election integrity moving forward, meaning respecting the outcome of an election, win, lose, or whatever. Trust me, I've been on both ends. As you know, back in the day, I won a race for the state legislature and then lost one 2 years later. The results are the results. Unless you believe there's something nefarious going on that's much deeper than who voted and how they voted. Julie, how important is the issue of election integrity as an issue in a congressional race?
It's extraordinarily important. It's important in an issue for dog catcher, never mind for Congress or president, anything in between. I mean, look.
I did not run for dog catcher. I just want to clarify that.
We don't have dog catchers in New Jersey, but I think we actually should, because we have enough. We don't have enough layers of government in New Jersey. We probably need a dog catcher.
Yes.
Look, I think the reality is this. Sometimes you win, and Mike and I have been on both sides of it as well as people who've run campaigns. Sometimes you win and sometimes you lose. There has to be a winner and there has to be a loser every time. Just because you don't win doesn't mean that this wasn't a fair process. And when you hear stories about Republicans across the country saying they're not going to respect the outcome of an election before the election even takes place. I mean, you have Republicans now saying that they're not necessarily going to respect the outcome of their own elections that haven't even taken place yet. That says to me, we're really on the cusp of something incredibly dangerous. And I don't want to overstate things, but I actually was in southern Germany this summer, and so spent a lot of time doing the little 1930s Nazi trail, and I'm not equating anybody to Nazis here. But there are incredible parallels between subverting democracy, between chipping away at democracy, between chipping away at the integrity of the press, between chipping away the integrity of your opponents, with what was happening in the 1930s across Europe and what we're seeing today. I'm not suggesting it's going to result in genocide or World War III, but I am suggesting that there are incredible parallels here that should be concerning to anybody who knows anything about history.
I'm going to give Mike a chance to respond.
Yeah, we need to, ultimately, people need to respect the results and the will of the voters. And, I, for one, stood up and said, I know how many votes come out of Philadelphia. I know how many votes come out of Milwaukee. I know how many votes come out of Detroit. And Donald Trump actually did better in those cities in 2020 than he did in 2016. He lost in the more moderate suburban areas outside of Atlanta. He lost places like Morris County in New Jersey. He lost those versions of Morris County in other states. We have to stand up and admit when we lose. That's how we go forward, whether it was Hillary Clinton, Al Gore, or John Adams when he walked away. I mean, that is a core of our democracy, is ultimately the loser accepting the defeat and hopefully the winner being gracious and governing ultimately, hopefully, in a bipartisan fashion going forward.
Real quick, I got about 30 seconds left. Fair to say, Julie, that President Biden's track record, his lack of popularity, the failures his administration has had, in spite of some recent legislation, that is an issue in this campaign, not just in the 7th district, but across the nation?
I don't think it's failures. I think it's a failure to communicate. I don't think it's policy failures at all. I think the fact that the president has not done an excellent job in communicating his successes is dragging Democrats down across the board. But look, it's the economy, stupid. It always will be. And as much as I wish we could talk about reproductive freedom or democracy at stake, which I think are which I think are the paramount issues, especially democracy in peril, is the paramount issue. The fear for me as a Democrat is that, of course, people tend to vote in pocketbook issues, especially in midterms. And look, people think the economy is not doing so hot.
I mean, by the way, when Julie says to me, it's the economy, stupid, she's not referring to me. She's quoting the great James Carville, who said that about a Bill Clinton campaign. Mike, is that a fact?
If you want to believe that, Steve, I'll let you believe that, but go ahead.
Julie.
I do think it's a fact. I think while Biden had a better summer and gas prices have gone down a little, not being terrible is not the same as being good. It's still going to be a referendum on Biden.
That's Mike. That's Julie. They're terrific, friendly fire. And even though Julie's just being mean to me, we'll see.
Never.
See you next time. Oh, that's the end of the show, right? See you next time, everyone.
State of Affairs with Steve Adubato is a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by Holy Name, New Jersey Sharing Network, New Jersey Institute of Technology, Veolia, Operating Engineers, Local 825, Eastern Atlantic States Regional Council of Carpenters, the Turrell Fund, supporting Reimagine Childcare, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, Choose New Jersey, and by these public-spirited organizations, individuals, and associations committed to informing New Jersey citizens about the important issues facing the Garden State. And by Employers Association of New Jersey. Promotional support provided by AM 970 The Answer, and by the New Jersey Business and Industry Association.